Hey, this is Dan Jones, owner of Carolina Real Estate Experts. I wanted to say congratulations on the contract. That is super. Now, I was actually recording this a minute ago, and I felt something just keep tickling me like up here. So to be completely honest, this is take two. My collar was turned way up, so I was going to continue, but I was thinking like, no, that might not look too good with this big thing flopping up here. But no, congratulations on your contract. So the purpose of this video is to go through everything and just kind of recap everything that's going to happen. So we have a few phone calls that are scheduled that will be scheduled with you on our conference calls. Conference call 1 is to kind of go over some of the things we're going over now and kind of outline inspections and termite inspections, appraisals, and contacting lenders and all that sort of fun stuff. But also we're going to move forward and talk about the lending process, how to select the lender, and just kind of piece everything together for you and answer some of the commonly asked questions. So number one, like I said, congratulations on the contract, super. Now let's get focused on what exactly needs to happen moving forward. So very first thing is we need to choose a lender. So I know you've spoken to a lender, hopefully it's one of ours. We do have our preferred list of lenders that I would highly suggest talking to and comparing rates, terms, and conditions if you have not already. The biggest feedback that we get from our clients after closing is, wow, I really wish I would have used one of your lenders. That was the worst experience I've ever had. You guys were awesome. This lender calls me to be 7-10 days late. I had to move my things twice. Now that I saw their fees, what they truly are, they were triple about what I should have paid, and I really we take that very personally because we do want you to feel educated both on the home buying process and on the lending side. So if you have not had a chance to talk to one of our lenders, please do so. I know there's a lot of credit unions out there right now that are doing this whole zero money down, but your interest rate's really high, and it's a 5-year ARM, so in 5 years your interest rate goes up. So what happens if you keep the home for 30 years? You have to refinance, which costs several thousands of dollars to refinance to get into a low rate loan, which you could actually do right now, but most of the credit unions don't go through all that sort of information with you. So we just want to make sure you get the cheapest money possible when we're looking at that. So once we get the lender side down, we're going to have 2 checks that need to be written. One to the attorney, which is for earnest money, and 2 is for due diligence. The due diligence money will go directly to the seller, and we'll let you know where that money needs to go. It could go to the listing agent's office, but it'll be made out to the seller. And then the earnest money will be made out to the attorney. The second we go under contract, we need you to send us copies of those checks and have them delivered ASAP. Okay. Now the due diligence money will stay with the seller. You will get credit for that check at closing. However, if you don't buy the house, you will not get that money back. Now the earnest money will go through to the attorneys. The attorney will hold that. And if we terminate the contract within the due diligence period, you will get that money back. If we don't terminate within the due diligence period and you cancel the day before closing, you will not get your earnest money back. Okay, now if you don't have checks, make sure, and we're going to need you to go to the bank immediately to get certified funds, and we'll let you know who to make those out to and exactly where they need to go. But the seller does have the ability to terminate the contract if we do not get those funds over to where they need to go within a couple of days, preferably on day 1, so we don't run that risk. So let's rewind. So number 1, you probably had your first conference call ready. If not, I'm sure it's coming up very soon. In the first conference call, we're going to go over inspections, who does them. You have the ability as the buyer to choose whoever you would want to for an attorney, for inspectors, anything down the line. You have the ability to choose. Most of our clients don't have a home inspector. They don't have a real estate attorney. So instead of calling all over town, they usually go with who we recommend, and we've done hundreds and hundreds of transactions with these folks. So we do have our folks, and if you have someone else, feel free to use anyone who you would want to, but that first conference call will go over all of those items. Okay. Now you will have a second conference call with our closing coordinator, and that's usually about 7 to 10 days out from closing. We'll go over final CDs, when you should receive that from your lender. We're going to go over walkthroughs, when you're going to get your keys, closing dates, where you're going to close at, wiring instructions, and utility information as well. And that's on conference call 2. All right, and you'll get that information here sooner than later. But next we're going to have your inspections. So our client coordinator here, and our closing coordinator role is to get all these things organized for you. Your agent has nothing to do with getting all those organized. Okay, so once they're organized, we have the home inspection. You're going to receive a report. All right, the report comes back, and then within usually 24 to 48 hours, we're going to not sit down physically unless you really want to, but usually we do that over the phone and review from top to bottom the full inspection report to figure out what sort of repairs we're going to ask the seller to do for us. Okay, so with that in mind, we do have, it is a seller's market, so we'll figure out exactly what we want to ask for. Some sellers are doing no repairs, some are doing a few, some are doing the major repairs and saying no to everything else. But that's our job to negotiate the best terms and conditions in regards to repairs and what the seller is going to do for those as well. Okay. Now, just a reminder in regards to your due diligence money and your earnest money, right? So once again, that due diligence money, you will get credit for at closing if you buy the house. The earnest money, though, if an inspection report comes back and there's just a lot of negatives going on with the house, right? There's no pass or fail on inspection. Either the seller can fix it, they don't fix it, but we have the ability, regardless if the seller decides to fix it or not, to terminate that contract within the due diligence period, so you get your earnest money back. Okay. Now, what's the turnaround time? Some people ask for getting a response on a due diligence request. So due diligence request / inspection repair request usually comes back within 48, 72 hours, unless a seller really, or they're out of town, or they really need to talk to some, a general contractor or get estimates from people to see what these things are going to cost to have repaired. But usually within 48, 72 hours, we should have a response from the seller on those items. But also during the due diligence period, you're going to have a termite inspection. You're also going to do surveys if that's something that you would like to do moving forward as well. But once we get to the point where we get through the due diligence period, you're going to receive what's called buyer papers from the attorney's office. So with the buyer papers, we're going to go ahead and send those over to you. Those do need to go directly back to the attorney's office, and our closing coordinator will go ahead and get those over to you from our end, but those will need to go back over to the closing attorney directly. All right, so once we get to the final week and a half, we need you to be coordinating everything with anything that your bank, whoever's doing your loan needs from you. We need to make sure everything is heading in the right direction and you get everything they get ASAP, and make sure and do not make any major purchases along the way. All right, so we don't need your credit being affected or anything along those lines because we went out and bought a new car or bought that refrigerator that was on sale. Wait until after closing to make any major purchases. All right, so here's a checklist of everything that you're going to need. So number one, for closing, you're going to need your driver's license. Right, 3 days before closing, we'll walk these steps back. 3 days before closing, you're going to receive from your lender your final CD, which is your closing disclosure with all your numbers and what you're going to need to bring to closing. All right, we cannot give you wiring instructions to the attorney's office. They will need to give those to you. We'll give you their information, and you can reach out to them, and they will email you wiring instructions. You'll need to take your final number amount and wire that money directly to the attorneys. Attorneys are not taking certified funds any longer. You will need to wire whatever you need to bring to closing directly to the attorneys. Now, as regards to doing a final walkthrough and getting your getting your keys, so at closing, some sellers will give the keys to the buyer at closing. Other ones will say, no, I want the attorney to hold the keys until this is recorded, then you can have the keys. Okay, so if that's the case, just be ready and be flexible on when you get your keys, because if you close at 11 o'clock in the morning, but the attorney doesn't have someone go to the courthouse until 1:30 or 2 to record your loan package and your deed of trust, at that point you will be able to get your keys at 2 o'clock. Right? Some sellers are different. Just be flexible. And your walkthrough usually happens the day of closing or the day before closing, depending on when the seller moves out, but just have some flexibility there. And some of the final advice I can give you is be really flexible on your close date. I know most of our outside lenders never close on time. So if your last day, in your rentals the 21st, and you're scheduled to close on the 20th, and you get a phone call from your lender over at SunTrust or BB&T or Bank of America says I can't close this until the 1st of the next month, and you say I have no place to live, just be flexible and have alternatives. But that is an issue, so be careful on deliveries as well. So you're supposed to close on the 21st, and you have everything being delivered to the house, at 4 o'clock on the 21st, but your lender calls you 2 days before and says I can't close this, I don't have everything I need, and all of a sudden you're a week behind, and you have the refrigerator coming, you have the AT&T coming to your house, you have Dish Network, whoever you have coming to your house, and you have to reschedule all that, cancel utilities. Just be really cautious and keep everyone's number in one place in case that does happen. Very rarely does that happen with one of our preferred lenders, but we can't control kind of what happens and how quickly you get your documents to our lenders, your lender, whoever you decide to use. But with that in mind, congratulations on the purchase. One of the biggest things to us is making sure our folks feel educated throughout this process, and thank you for watching the video. I think it should really help answer some of your questions. And if you have anything you need from us, you let us know. Otherwise, congratulations on the purchase, and we'll look forward to meeting you in the future. Talk to you soon.